Hello, everybody. My name is Amy Hankels, and I am a reference librarian here at the Ely Area Public Library. And I'm going to be teaching this class about navigating misinformation. And this is just such a critical topic, especially with how just information can come at us in so many different ways. And it can be difficult to tell like what information is real, what isn't. And so we are going to be learning how to develop skills to spot bias and to verify resources. So a couple of things. This is a webinar, so in the Zoom platform, you can either use the chat. I'm not seeing a Q&A feature, so if you have questions, just pop them in the chat. I'm also going to have some things where I'm going to ask you to engage in the chat. And so if you're able to just look at the chat and ask your questions there, and I will definitely be taking questions at the end of this program. Let's see. So go to my next slide. Before we get started, so this is a program about navigating information. I have pulled a couple of samples from both social media and like news, online news sites. Some of these examples may be triggering, they may not. I'm also just going to ask that you refrain from discussing the specific content of the examples in the chat, just to keep it kind of clean. And also what's been chosen, it does not reflect the personal views of any staff members, including myself. I was just trying to find some good examples of some things that you may be encountering. They are things that I have encountered as I've done my own like news consumption habits. So just wanted to keep that in mind. Sure, awesome. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about how understanding how misinformation spreads, and we're going to be talking about like how to spot red flags, and I'm going to share with you some resources. We're going to practice some fact checking strategies, and finally we're going to look at how to build like healthy information habits. And first time where I'll ask you guys to engage in the chat, like what's the last headline or post that has made you pause? I'm just going to ask you to share in the chat. Yeah, I'm going to just check. And then on the chat, like make sure right before you can type a message, make sure it's toggled to everyone and not just the host and panelists. That way it can be a little bit more engaging. And as you guys are sharing, I'm just going to share. I am like constantly seeing posts when I go into my social media, and about I love Dancing with the Stars, and I've been seeing things that are like that say like Bindi Irwin has been on the show, and last week I couldn't watch it live, and so that really made me pause. I'm like, no, they wouldn't have put her on there. I'm like, that can't be real, and it wasn't real. So that's an example for me, like of like a post that kind of made me pause and do a double take. And so I'm just going to invite you guys to share in the chat who's come on. Or if there's nothing there, you can also share. I'd like to know, like, what is one thing that you're hoping to learn by coming to this program? The fire hose of information. So, we're going to delve into the relentless nature of today's news cycle. This pace is it can feel like very dizzying, and the news cycle like pretty much never stops. And what this means is you can be encountering news at like any point in time. You can go on when you're on a social media app, like if you guys use like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and there's other ones too that I'm just not thinking of. I covered the main ones, but the new, like, it can just feel like once you show interest in one thing, then news just keeps on coming at you. There's also news apps if you're using those, or when you're watching TV and you have commercials on and they're promoting like news broadcasts that are happening. It could just feel like we are constantly getting information and news thrown at us. That's not even counting the things that people talk about. As a librarian, like I've had people like come up and like engage and talk about the news with us because it's something to talk about. And something to keep in mind that social media algorithms, they prioritize engagement over accuracy. This means that what often goes viral isn't necessarily true, but it's simply what is grabbing attention the quickest. Um, like something to consider, like in the race for virality, truth frequently takes a back seat, and this is what we refer to as the fire hose of information, where content is constantly pumped out without pause. And as we move forward, keep these points in mind when you're thinking about the news that you consume daily. They're crucial for understanding the broader conversation about misinformation. So we're going to talk about some definitions, and like, even me as a librarian, I deal with researching and looking up things. I also do have to say that I fall into these traps. I fell into one I'll share with one of the examples later. Yeah, I made the mistake of clicking on the link, and it was definitely like I knew it was misinformation, but it was also like potentially like harmful to my device. So it's just super important to be really careful. And even people who are trained in research and gathering information, it can, when things are designed to be misleading, it can be like even the experts can trip up. And so I share that because sometimes we can, I know I've fallen into the tendency of being hard on myself, but when I hear that even other experts struggle with things like this, it makes me feel a little bit better. And even some of the, like with these definitions, as I was putting this together, the I didn't really know like the different I didn't realize like the differences between these, and there is. And I used to always like categorize it as misinformation, but there's really different definitions, and something like it can be important to have these clear definitions. So there's misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation. With misinformation, this is what is likely going to be encountered the most often. This refers to false information that's shared without the intent to deceive. And it's not always deliberate, and that's really the important distinction. I've been seeing a lot of misinformation over the past couple of months. I am a Taylor Swift fan. If you guys have heard anything, there's been a lot of chatter about her lately with her new album and the Super Bowl. Some misinformation that was going around. A big piece was that she turned down the Super Bowl because they wouldn't, like the NFL wouldn't give her um, like the rights to her performance, and that's not true. And she recently, last night, spoke out about this and saying, hey, that's not true. And people who were fans and were spreading these things probably didn't realize it was false, and so it's not always intentional. So that's an example of misinformation. Whereas we have disinformation, and this is again something that's false. However, the intent is to mislead. And so someone is intending to deceive. I don't have a specific example about this because I don't, this can get a little tricky in terms of what is being shared, and I didn't want to open up a can of worms because I don't really know what I don't know what everybody's intention is when they're sharing things online. So sometimes there is this, when it is disinformation, it is somebody sharing things that are false to be misleading on purpose. And then finally, we have malinformation. This one is interesting because the information is true, but is used with an intent to harm. Like in for this, it could be somebody like sharing something that is true, but they're doing it to hurt somebody else. I it again, like some of these are, it's really easy to get some examples, good examples of misinformation, but the other ones are important distinctions to understand. Does anyone have any questions? I don't think I have. Okay, beautiful. Okay, so there's some motivations behind misinformation. The first is financial incentives are like a significant driver for the spread of misinformation. Many entities create sensational content to attract clicks, which translates into advertising revenue. This is often referred to as clickbait, and this could be like those like very sensational headlines that you may see, and they want people to be engaging with that content, and then it triggers the algorithm, and then you're seeing more and more of somebody's stuff, and yeah, it translates into money for various entities, whether it is if you're on social media, an influencer, or it could be a business. There's so many different ways this can come out. And then there's also the pursuit of political or ideological gain. So misinformation can be used here to sway public opinion, influencing elections, or promoting specific agendas. It's a powerful tool for shaping narratives. And then finally, on this slide, we have humor or satire that goes awry. Sometimes content that is meant to entertain or provoke thought can be misinterpreted as factual, leading to an unintended spread. This is something that can happen kind of easily to me. I tend to take things literally. So something that maybe I didn't know was a like a satire publication, and they're sharing something and it's satire, I'm thinking that it's true. I share it with like share it in a message on my Instagram account, and then my friends are sharing it with other people, and that's how some misinformation can get spread around. Uh, and like understanding these motivations can help us become more discerning consumers of information. All right, why we get tricked. So let me go back here. So it comes down to how our brains like process information, especially when it comes to misinformation. So there's something called confirmation bias. This is our tendency to favor information that confirms our existing beliefs, which can blind us to new or conflicting evidence. So like confirmation bias, it's like our brains, they, when we have the intention to find something, it is our brains want to like find that thing to prove that thought that we're having. And this can also, it connects with our something called our reticular activating system. And if you've ever maybe like when you're going to buy a new car, this is an example that I've heard and that I've experienced let's say like you buy a new car, and I don't know much about cars. A few years ago I got a Kia Soul, and I was like, I've never seen this car before. And then all of a sudden, now that I have one, I see them all the time when I'm driving. And so this can be an example of how that confirmation bias can show up. Like we're looking for something, and then all of a sudden we see more of it. And we can find ourselves inside of a bubble of information that just confirms what all of our views are. And then there's emotional triggers like fear, anger, or outrage. These emotions can cloud our judgment, making us more susceptible to believing false information. And something that like it's not always easy, like when you are feeling like strong emotions like fear, anger, outrage, anxiety, to take moments to calm down. I'm certainly not perfect about it, but something that I do tend to do when I notice myself feeling a very strong negative emotion, like fear or anger, like specifically, or anxiety, I will sometimes I get stuck in it for a little bit, but as soon as I notice and I'm aware, I take a step back and like I'm like, okay, let me breathe, let me step away from my devices, um and I just kind of take a break from the news cycle a little bit and allow myself to like calm down, and then go through some of the things I'm going to share later in this class. um and then kind of along with confirmation bias, there's also echo chambers. These are environments where we only encounter opinions and information that reinforce what we already think. And this limits our exposure to diverse perspectives. So this could be like, let's say that you are more conservative. If you only interact with people who have the same like conservative beliefs that you have, it can create an echo chamber. Or if you're only reading books or watching programs that are by conservative sources, that can create an echo chamber. And same with liberal, or even like middle. Like if you are just centered around people who think the same way as you, believe the same way as you, that creates that echo chamber. And it again like creates that little bubble where you're not sure if you're not really getting information from other spaces. All right. Does anyone have any questions about what I covered so far? Feel free to use the Q&A, and you can try the chat. I think I fixed it, but who knows? Okay. All right. All right, we're good. Okay, so here's an example. I'm just going to ask you guys to take a moment. Like, how does this headline make you feel before you do some like fact checking? This is something I pulled from, I used Google News. I think it was last week. And like maybe some of the feelings can be a little strong, and just taking a moment to pause and ask yourself how you're feeling when you're reading a headline. Like slowing down a little bit can be like really helpful. I pulled this one specifically because I saw like attacks, the word attacks, and lectures, and those are very like strong and negative words. I saw a different headline and I couldn't get a good screenshot because in Google News it had like the phrase, but then I went to the source and it got lost, and that can happen sometimes. But it's like like the phrase was, Trump speaks with UN, or Trump addresses the UN, and that is a much that's not those are not words that are going to elicit emotions and strong feelings. Um, but it is like natural to have an emotional response. Um, it's just good to just take some time to become aware of it. Okay, spotting red flags. Okay, so a few things to take a look at when it comes to red flags. There's four key questions that you can ask. So the first is who is behind who is behind what is being shared. So if this is about identifying the source, and this is crucial to understanding the credibility of the information. So with this, like who is behind it? Are you like I'll share my Dancing with the Stars example because it's pretty neutral. When I open up my Facebook account and I'll see like a post. It's like, oh, somebody got mad at somebody else after like the shocking elimination, and I look like the source is who is that account, who is posting it, and when it's not the official Dancing with the Stars account, or if it's not like like a reputable news source, um, like ABC or Fox or NBC, it's just some like Dancing with the Stars fan account. And then I can see, okay, well, that is a red flag. If it's just somebody talking, there's no like reporter behind it, there's no like official account of like a business or a show behind it. And you can also look at the URL. Like typically with those kinds of posts, I will see some kind of like website URL. I look at that, and I have an example on in a couple slides to show you with something else. But if it doesn't have like a reputable website on it, like a news source that you know and are familiar about it, then typically I ignore it because it may not be something that is reputable, or with a link specifically that could be, this ties into like cybersecurity a little bit, but it could be somebody who's trying to get like information from your device, or somebody who's trying to like put a virus on your device or something. So it's important to be safe. So looking at the who behind it. Next, we have the evidence. And evidence supports claims, so it's vital to examine like what is presented. So in when you're looking at like information, prior to like recently, I was getting a lot of my news from social media, which I know that's not necessarily good. I know better. I'm a librarian, but I've never really been one to read newspapers or watch the news. I actually haven't watched TV on an actual TV. I've been using streaming services for like 15 years, like when they were first coming out. And that's just because of my lifestyle, and I fell into it. So when, especially when I'm getting stuff on social media, it's so easy to misinterpret what somebody is sharing as their opinion as something that is like real. And so looking at the evidence would be, are they citing sources? There are some accounts on social media that will do have like footnotes, or I like accounts that will share information from other accounts, and that evidence from the like original account, that is a reputable resource. Like somebody who is sharing, I'm just going to keep talking Dancing with the Stars. They'll share like Dancing with the Stars stuff, but they're sharing something from one of the competitors on the show, or they're sharing something from like ABC or the Dancing with the Stars account. So that's like some of the evidence that I see. Okay, this is something that I can pay attention to, and that's like good evidence. If it's just somebody else's opinion and they're sharing, and I don't know the person, then okay, I have to do a little bit more digging in. And that leads into this: what do other sources say? So, and I know this can be a bit tedious, but like looking at what other sources say, and this is a bit of cross-referencing, and this is where you can highlight inconsistency, or confirm information, or confirm something that isn't true. And so, like, if you see something and you're like, oh, pausing and then checking what other sources say. And I'm going to share some resources with you guys. And then finally, looking at when it was published. And so the timeliness of information can affect its relevance and accuracy. If somebody, like keeping on with Dancing with the Stars, because it's on tonight, if somebody were to share, if I were to see a post like right now at like 2:35 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon that says, oh, this person gets eliminated on Dancing with the Stars, that's not going to be relevant, or that's not true, because the show hasn't aired yet. And it's a live show. So there's no way that this could be leaked. There's no way that this could be true or accurate. So just keeping in mind, I use like a, pretty obvious example, but there's other things that can happen there. Does anyone have any questions so far? Okay. So I have a red flag checklist. So this is something, if you want to write these down, this is some things to help you spot some red flags when you're looking at information. So if there's no author or a vague source, this can be a sign that the information may not be reliable. And then next, clickbait titles. These are titles that are designed to like really grab your attention. If they have like immediacy, if there's something like super shocking, and there can be this intention to grab your attention rather than inform. Something that somebody told me once is that there are very few actual like true emergencies. There's just with wording that's used and the like sometimes like expectations that like society or people have on us, it can feel like there are a lot more emergencies than what they really are. So like keeping in mind that there's very little true emergencies can really like help you just, okay, maybe I'm not going to go click on this. Maybe instead of clicking, I'm going to talk about this in a few minutes. Like maybe I'm going to go open up another tab and like search what this thing is saying or what this headline is saying so I can like verify information in a different way before I go and click on it. So like pausing, taking some steps to check your information, that can be really helpful. And like similarly with that clickbait title, if there's all caps or very strong emotional language, I pointed out before that like the attacks and lectures isn't as strong as like attacks. That's a very strong emotional like language. And so like emotional language can be used to like manipulate emotions rather than present facts. So really paying attention and looking for headlines or things that are being said, and if there's like neutral language, like okay, this is presenting information rather than trying to elicit an emotional response. And then I mentioned before checking for evidence and looking for broken links. Honestly, if I could give you one piece of advice, don't click on something unless if you know where it's coming from. Because especially if it's not, if it's someone you don't know, like, or a source you don't know, it can, that's like a cybersecurity thing that can lead to viruses. And I know a lot of us know it, but sometimes they're like, oh, it might be okay. Like, how am I going to know what a website is unless if I click on it? Um, Typically, if it's a link that is like very long and it has a lot of random numbers and like letters in intermixed in it, that may be that's like an odd formatting or a URL that isn't it like lacks professional standard, and that could be something that is not as reputable. And so asking yourself if any of these red flags are present when you come across new information, that can be really helpful. Okay, beautiful questions. All right. Okay, so here's one that this is the one where I clicked on the link and it was a bad link. So I'm just going to ask, and if Q&A or chat doesn't work, just do this internally. I'll be silent for a few minutes, but like what red flags do you see? This is something that I saw. I think it was yesterday, actually. I was trying to look for a different example to put on here. This came across on my my Facebook feed, and it's it's about the Super Bowl for 2026. So all right. So a couple things that I want to point out. The source, this page, Simply Love Pink. And Pink is a performing artist. That's her right there. And a couple things. First, they say Simply Love Pink. They don't say her name on the fan page correctly. If it is supposed to be for Pink, her name is how it's spelled here, like P exclamation point NK. And there's been no official anything that she is performing at the Super Bowl. It was this artist here, Bad Bunny, who was announced that he's performing at the Super Bowl. And so that's like, it's something like, oh, that's shocking. Like, what? And there was more down here, but I couldn't get my page. It wouldn't fit on one page to be able to for me to get a full screenshot of it. So that is like a red flag. Like, this pink doesn't match that pink. It's something that has a bit of a like clickbait headline, more so in the graphic that you can't really see. But then also, this is not an account that I follow. If you, when you're on your social media on Facebook specifically, and you see something in your newsfeed and there is a follow next to it, that means that you're not following them. This isn't something that I chose to receive information from. This is something that the algorithm has put into my feed. And then this URL here, something to point out that's a red flag, storyhorizon.net. I have never heard of this. It also does not match the account that it is posting from. So that is a red flag here, where this URL is cross-trainable. Like I said, I clicked on it because I was like, oh, let me see. It was just, I don't know why I clicked it. And then like a bunch of pop-ups came up. I had to restart my computer. Everything's fine. But it was one of those things. And I've seen this happen before, like while working at the library, where people are like, oh my gosh, my computer has a virus. No, it doesn't. But they're just trying to get you to click on things so it can create havoc. So just really be careful checking the URL not matching this. This is something where what I did do was I did a separate search on a different computer, or I think I did a search on my phone, actually, if I'm going to be honest. And I asked, oh, Pink, is Pink going to be a guest on the Super Bowl halftime show? No, it was a rumor that was started. I don't know how it was started. It's not necessarily that I believe this. This was an example I saw. I was like, oh, that would be good for this class. So here we go. All right, perfect. Tools and techniques. All right. So first, I've referenced this before, but there's something called lateral reading, and this is like a very powerful technique. This is probably it's probably the thing that, at least for me, I find it very annoying, and so I try to be a bit more like intentional when I am consuming content. for this very reason, because I don't necessarily want to open new tabs, or I want to see what other sources say. It feels like I'm doing homework, and um, while I'm technically in school, I'm not in school for reading the news right now. So it's not something that I necessarily want to do. So like opening new tabs, this is, and it can even be if you are watching the news on TV, uh, or like a talk show, or I don't know, something, you can use like your phone or a tablet to like fact check, to open new tabs to check in, okay, what is being shared. Or what you can do is absorb things, and maybe keep a note if you don't want to do it right away. Keep a note, be like, oh yeah, I want to look into that. And I'm going to share some fact checking sites that you can use. And then seeing what other sources say. Um, this again, it's like opening new tabs just really to see what the other sources are saying about what it is that you're reading. Like checking, because something that is more likely to be true, you're going to see it from multiple sources, and thinking about like where that, um, what source, yeah, like where you're getting that information. I'm so sorry, I'm a little tongue tied today. And so, um, because it could like Taylor Swift land is a wonderful example. It can, if all of your other sources, if I'm looking at Taylor Swift news, and everything that I'm looking at is from like fan accounts, and they're diving into the Easter eggs, and nothing has been like confirmed yet, then that's not necessarily like reputable. Those are just other fans. But if I am looking at, okay, I hear this rumor, I'm going to go check on Taylor Swift's social media account, or watching or reading the interviews she's been doing lately. Like those are reputable sources. So like checking what other sources say, but keeping in mind that to not have that echo chamber going on, and going like outside of what that echo chamber is. Okay, there's also some, you can do some reverse image search. So here's a couple of places. Google Lens, you can use this. I have a link here, but it's I've seen it more useful like on the phone, like if you can have like the app downloaded, or when you're searching, you can use like the Google Lens. So what the reverse image searching does, I think, I'm not sure if my screen changes, but so I may not be able to use the links. I may have done like the wrong kind of share. Which I can fix that. But Google Lens and reverse image searching is when you see something like an image and you're like, is this true? Is this AI? What is this? You can use these image search sites like Google Lens or TinEye, to get the history of this photo, like where it has showed up. It can help you get more information about the source. And then let me see. Yeah. So it encourages you to download an app. And then if somebody can confirm, can you guys see the Google Lens page as I'm presenting, or is it stuck on the slideshow? Okay, I think we can see the slideshow. I was able to confirm. Okay, good. Perfect. And then Tin Eye. Yeah, so you can search by an image URL. So if you're on a computer, you can use this. And they also have browser extensions. So you can choose like whatever browser you use, you can do a browser extension. But this, hold on, let me see, Q&A. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Okay, perfect. Beautiful. Okay. Yeah, so Tineye, you can search by the URL, or you can paste, drag, or upload an image here. And so what this does is it gives you information on like about where the image was found. It does image verification. Um, you can scan labels. They do a bunch of things. So it just gives you, when you're looking at photos, it gives you a little bit more information. So I wanted to share these resources. And then I am going to share because I'm recording this, I'm going to email out the replay if you're registered, and I'll have a PDF of the slides when that happens. Okay, so reverse image search, we got that. Okay, so now we have fact checking sites. Fact checking sites are just invaluable because there's people who work for these sites who are verifying the credibility of information for you. So it can take a lot of the legwork out. And so some of the most reliable ones include Snopes, PolitiFact, factcheck.org, and AP Fact Checks. So they rigorously investigate claims and provide transparent evidence to support their conclusions. So I'm going to show you guys. So here's Snopes. Let me just share. Like I can search. Like I search pink and Super Bowl. All it does is it shows something from 2018. So there's nothing there. You can also like Super Bowl 2026. So you can see everything fact checking for the Super Bowl 2026. And like there's different headlines you can look at. And if we're investigating like the artist Pink, we see nothing on here. So sometimes it's if you don't even see something that like you encountered in a fact checking site, then that can give you enough evidence that it's probably not true if it didn't even make it to the fact checking site, or it's something that's still being investigated. So kind of pause about that. But with and then even here you can see if you can't find a topic, send it to us so we can fact check it. So like Snopes can give you this. You can also just look at the latest. Here's some fact checking things. And yeah, it's a great website to check out. And then there's PolitiFact. Sometimes the links take a little bit of time. Okay, PolitiFact here. So something I'm not the biggest fan of it because there's a lot of like this right here, it's pretty big. It's an advertisement. So if you want to search, you got to go up to the upper left. There's a search bar there. Then you can they have a menu, but like PolitiFact, do like trying to find something political, and that's the first thing I saw. Interesting. And so you can search for things and yeah, so basically like okay, it's a different it's Dolly Parton refusing to celebrate Pride Month in June. There's no evidence that Dolly Parton is boycotting Pride Month. This is from June. It's a little bit a way back, but essentially they're saying no, this was there, and they give like some information so you can read the evidence there. Yeah, they don't have like an Illinois state edition, but they do have different categories. There's issues, there's people, there's media, and then they have the truthometer. And you can read about like their process, the staffs, who pays for it. That's really important to know because everything, you got to have money to run everything, even to host a website, it costs money. So knowing how things are funded, whether it's a business, whether it's nonprofit, and if it's nonprofit, like who funds it? Is it publicly funded? Is it funded by like an organization that has like different various views? So it can be important to know like where these things come from. Okay, so I did PolitiFact. So now we have factcheck.org. And so they have a homepage where you can look at different headlines and check out everything. They have articles. You can ask them a question. They do have a search. Why? No results for the Super Bowl. Sometimes a lot of these are a little bit political, and but they can be useful. Like if you're looking at like information about politics and the government, there's a lot of things that have been going on. It can feel like it's a deluge sometimes. And they have some fact check posts. And they have like questions and answers. So this is a website you can check out and use and utilize. And then AP Fact Check, this is the Associated Press, and yeah, and they are they're like not a business, they're publicly funded. So there is independent, fact-based, nonpartisan reporting. And so they have a fact check here. Of course, Taylor Swift, like I said, she's been in the news a lot lately. And there's just it's really fact focused. The Associated Press can be a way to get news if you're wanting something that's not necessarily run by uh, like a business. Like ABC is a media company of business, so like CBS, all those, they're all companies. Like um, sometimes you just want something that's not. Associated Press can be a news source to go to that can be really helpful. Okay, we don't have any questions. Okay, healthy information habits. All right. Yeah, so as we continue exploring healthy information habits, we're going to talk about some practical steps that you can take to ensure that you're consuming and sharing reliable information. First of all, diversifying your resources. This means not relying on a single source for all of your information, like looking at different perspectives. When you look at them, you can get a fuller picture of any given topic. So I noticed that like me, like myself, like I tended to have like a little bit of an echo chamber going on in my Instagram, and um I specifically started seeking out different accounts who held like different opinions and beliefs than me. And that was really helpful because I could just see that I could get information from different perspectives, and it helped me see people who think differently in a different way, and not like assuming that everybody I interact with thinks the same way I do. But regardless of whether they think like I do or don't, or hold the same beliefs I do or don't, we are all human, and so that has been really helpful for me. um Next, like kind of related to this, like curating your feeds. So be intentional about the sources you follow online, or even like where you are getting your information. Um, until actually today, because I do some social media work for the library, and I like to support authors who are not super well known with like promoting their books, especially when I really like them. I'm a heavy reader, so I'm hopping back into Instagram land. But for about like 2 weeks, I logged out of all of my Instagram because I found myself not having the mental capacity to be able to do these things like um, double checking my resources and everything. And I was intentional about how I was curating the information I was receiving. Like if I wanted news, okay, I'm going to, and I didn't do it, but if I wanted news, if I felt like it, okay, I have to take the step. I'm going to go maybe look on like Google News and look at news headlines, or I'm going to like I started looking at Associated Press for an online news resource because of like it's a more neutral. That's like me personally. I prefer things that are more neutral. Not that there's anything wrong with other places. You can have your favorite too. I'm not in one way promoting one over another, but really being intentional about um, who you're following, what you're following. Now that I'm hopping back on Instagram, I am unfollowing a ton of people, or a ton of accounts, not necessarily people, because I do want to curate my feed so that it is something that is going to be a bit balanced. And for me, like I was seeing a lot of um the things that were triggering to me in like a negative way, and I didn't want that anymore. So I took a pause. It's okay to take social media or news breaks if you need to do that. Like you don't need to know everything every moment of the day. It's okay to take time to be intentional with it. um and then I have slow down before sharing. This is like super important. Like it can be like if you see something exciting or maybe positive or maybe even negative, you're like, everyone should know this. Um it like when we when we're feeling strong or heavy emotions, whether it's like happy, excited, or like angry or upset or anything, we do, like as humans, we don't tend to make the best decisions when we're emotionally charged. And so, really, like slowing down before sharing, before making any decisions, can be really beneficial. Um, like slowing down, like verify, take those steps that I uh, talked about previously can be super important. Just to take those moments to slow down before sharing, because you don't want to unintentionally be spreading misinformation. And it happens to the best of us. Sometimes I don't even think, I'm like, oh, whoops, I did that. I happen to have a couple of safe people in my life, and I go, okay, I'll just say, I haven't fact checked this, but I want to share it. And then we're like, let's fact check this together. And then we go, oh, yeah, that was true. Or no, that was false. So it could be maybe you have somebody that's in your life that you can be like, hey, can you be like my safe person? I may share something verbally with you or or electronically. And I'm just going to say, I have not fact checked this yet. Let's look at this together. And I have a couple people in my life, and they're like, yeah, all right, let's do it. And it's great. And so it's nice to get like, it's my outlet where if I want to be a little bit impulsive, I can be, but I can also do it in a safe way that's not necessarily going to cause harm. Um, and then finally, we have follow credible fact checkers regularly. So looking at those websites I shared, or maybe if you find your own, I have my email on the last slide. Please share with me. I love hearing about resources that other people find helpful, because I like I don't know everything. There's so much information. There's so many resources out there, and there may be something that maybe I personally am like, I don't like this, but maybe somebody else does. So, like, please share if you know of a fact checker. If you know of something now, feel free to share it in the Q&A. Or if the chat works, I still don't know. I'm assuming it doesn't because it has not been used at all. And I apologize, but technology, man. But yeah, follow credible fact checkers, and that can help you not have to do as much work because you know that they've done the work. All right, and then just some key takeaways here. Being aware of like bias. So this is again like looking at the resources. Everybody has a bias. This is like everyone has an opinion or a belief, and they're going to be sharing from that. Like a liberal news resource, they're going to share things that are more liberal and like liberal interpretations of it. Conservative news sources are going to share more conservative point of views and perspectives. That's going to be even though each of them may be sharing facts, it's going to have that layer of bias in it. So just being aware of the sources and like what kind of um, resource it is, and just being aware and asking yourself questions to just kind of combat that. When we talked about spotting red flags, so paying attention to, yeah, like the source. Does the website URL match the source that it's coming from? This can come across more on social media. I forgot to mention, and you may know this already, but I think it was earlier this year, or maybe towards the end of last year. Don't exactly remember when, but Meta, aka the company that owns Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and maybe some other um, social media platforms. Oh, Threads. They took away their own fact checkers, so people can post anything. And I've noticed it upset me because like I was following for things and it just bothered me. It gave me feelings like right after it was announced or soon after, I saw like a video that was like, oh, like Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were gonna break up, and I was like, um it people can share that and make it seem like it's real, whereas prior to having that fact checking in the social media like company itself, videos like that wouldn't have been posted. So um just that's just something to be aware of, like knowing that, okay, I am going to encounter misinformation on social media sites. And then, okay, how can I prove that this is true before I share it? And that's where the tools and techniques that we talked about come into play. Using the fact checking sites, doing lateral reading, like opening up separate tabs or using a different device to verify that the information being shared is true. And then we just talked about like healthy habits, like taking breaks, slowing down, curating your feed, and just paying attention to the sources that you're getting information from. All right. So I left a little bit of time for questions. If anybody has questions, you can pop it in the Q&A, or if there was something that maybe you were hoping I would cover and I didn't, I'll give a minute or two for you guys to pop it in. And then I just have my email is up at the bottom on this slide. So if nobody has questions, you guys can take a note on my email. And I think I sent the Zoom link in case if you didn't see that, it was posted in the description to those who were registered earlier today. So the replay will be sent from this email along with the PDF of the slides, so that way you can have the resources. I'm assuming nobody has questions, so thank you. Thank you. And again, I'll have the recording. Yep. Okay, perfect. Thank you guys for attending. I hope it was helpful. Again, like my email is there. If you have questions coming up later or want to share resources, like um, please email me. More than welcome to. Yeah. All right. Thank you guys.